As temperatures around the United States heat up, many are wondering when housing prices will cool down following a spring buying season we have never seen before. Last year, around this time, thousands of agents, experts, and YouTubers were calling for a crash, and initially they were correct. Following a historic rise in interest rates where we saw a typical 30-year mortgage approach 7.5%, the market shut down and participants returned to the sidelines waving white flags. Prices in dozens of markets began to crash, and even on the national level, we saw 7 straight months of decline as measured by the renowned and reliable Case-Shiller index. But as you probably know yourself, everything we thought was going to happen with the markets turned out to be wrong. Suddenly, prices reversed course, interest rates took a slight dip, and in many places throughout the United States, bidding wars reappeared, with prices approaching and even exceeding last year's records. Now, as we enter July and rates begin to touch that 7% level we saw last year, many are confused and rightfully frustrated. Their agents are telling them it's going to get worse from here, while every other expert has a differing opinion. Some are claiming a continued rise in prices, while others declared that a mega crash worse than what we saw in 2008 is on the horizon. This instability is quickly becoming a serious problem. Buying a home for most people is one of the biggest decisions they will make in their lives, and figuring out when or if they should buy can be a stressful process. Nobody wants to buy in a bubbly market on the verge of a collapse. Now, as someone who makes YouTube content related to real estate, I have to admit something that relates to this psychological problem that every buyer encounters, something that has been on my mind for over a year. If you take a look around this platform and others like it, you'll find a wide array of videos related to real estate, and many of these videos have millions of views. If someone had told me that over 1.7 million individuals would watch just one of my videos related to a niche topic such as residential real estate predictions, I would have never believed you, yet for some reason millions of viewers are interested in this rather bizarre trend that on social media tends to lean towards the bearish side. If it bleeds, it leads, and whether you like to admit it or not, people love watching content that scares them. So what does this have to do with the video today? Well, many of my recent uploads have been pretty bearish, and you might be saying to yourself, what a hypocrite. This channel is just riding this phenomenon and cashing in on that sweet AdSense money. Many of my recent comments have alluded to this idea, and I've never responded, so I just wanted to take a moment to reveal my true thoughts related to what's happening in the markets today. This channel was very bullish on real estate all the way up until the summer of 2022, and it was only then that my beliefs changed. Over the winter, prices did in fact slip, but the spring brought a massive surprise reversal, and now we're seeing an environment that is challenging my recent predictions and beliefs. Every week, I try to make a video that is supported not by my thoughts, but rather by reliable data provided by the world's leading experts in the residential real estate space. Now, a lot of people who have had success on the internet in areas such as personal finance and real estate will look at my account and label it junk. To many of these people, anybody without a PhD degree is nothing more than an Instagram economist, a YouTube fearmonger, or even worse, a straight-up fraud. And while I 100% agree that nobody should ever make a decision related to home buying based on something they read or saw on the internet, I disagree that regular people cannot take in data related to the health of the residential real estate space and make their own decisions and content. There is this common belief that home prices go up forever and always, and this belief is almost religious among investors and influencers. And while yes, the data does indeed suggest favorable returns for those who owned homes over the past 60 years, there is another body of evidence that suggests markets, including real estate markets, can struggle for decades. For example, in New York City, it's very likely that if you had bought a piece of real estate in 1930, you would have not been able to sell that property for a profit until the mid-70s. This is quite literally an entire lifetime of waiting for a 0% return. Now, I'm not suggesting that this is the reality for this market, but rather I'm saying that there is always another side to the story, and just because we've had good returns for decades doesn't necessarily mean that success will continue for the next half century. We've seen the price of homes explode towards the upside, and anytime volatility is introduced to a particular market, it can go in both directions. The recent 40% run-up in prices can just as easily reverse in the other direction, and my ultimate point is that the same group of people that claim that this is normal market behavior are the same people that claim that a 40% crash is impossible. Now, with that in mind, what are my true thoughts in regards to today's wild market? One where regular people struggle to find an affordable home. Should we expect a serious downturn soon, considering near record high prices and record high monthly payments? Well, to be perfectly honest, it's very hard to predict in the short term. Banks like Deutsche are now saying that while the housing market was navigating a mid-cycle crisis with this whole rate situation, this turbulent bump isn't the thing that will derail this supercycle that began way back in 2012. Essentially, the data is very mixed right now as the home market is headed up following a massive dip, while at the same time, everyone is predicting an economic downturn in the fall. This, combined with extremely low inventory and a massive question mark surrounding rates, has everyone truly guessing. What I can say is that in the short term, I doubt there will be any relief this year. If you turn to Alto's research numbers, you'll see exactly what I mean. But to understand their numbers, we first need to take one step back and take a quick history lesson regarding the last big crash. In July 2006, the housing market in the US reached a peak. Following that infamous month, the great financial crisis would begin. It would take the market over 5 years to bottom out. Declining 27%, the market would bottom out in February of 2012. Following the devastation, a new bull market would begin. Initially, the growth was very slow, but as the US economy gathered momentum, turbocharged by low interest rates, the housing market rose from the ashes. 11 years later, in January 2017, the market began to exceed the previous '06 peak, steadily climbing at a gentle positive pace. Then it happened. In March 2020, an event unlike anything we have experienced in our lifetimes took place. Initially believed to be the source of the next crash, March 2020 proved to be a turning point. One where stimulus, record low interest rates, and a change in consumer behavior fueled one of the biggest frenzies in history. Home prices exploded at a pace rarely seen in history. From March 2020 to June 2022, prices increased 43%. To give you some perspective on that rise, it took the Case-Shiller nearly 16 years to see that return from June 2006 to July 2021. Yet this recent 43% run was completed in just 2 years. Anybody can look at this and see very quickly that it's an unsustainable bubble primed for mean reversion. And when prices finally began to fall in the summer of 2022, many, including myself, thought it was all over. Home prices were falling at a pace worse than in 2008, and interest rates were rising rapidly to make matters worse. But following 7 straight months of decline, we began seeing bubbly behavior once again. A strange pattern emerged. Inventory, which historically has determined the direction of prices, began contracting once again. With 50% of American homes owned outright without a mortgage and 80% of mortgages locked in with rates under 5%, the selling simply dried up. No normal person that bought in the last 20 years was going to sell their either paid off home or their low interest home to buy in a market like this. One where you have to battle multiple offers, take on 7% mortgages, high prices, insane contingencies, and much higher tax bills. If you look at Redfin's numbers, you can see this narrative develop in real time. Redfin median numbers lag much less than the Case-Shiller, and you can see that this spring, we saw prices essentially follow the same pattern as last year. While they are slightly below the highs we saw last summer, they are now entering the most important week of the year. It was at this point last year that we saw prices peak, and it will be incredibly interesting to see what happens over the next month, whether or not we witness a collapse as bad as 2022. Mike Simonson, the co-founder of Altos Research, recently showed that while inventory is inching up following these recent developments in the 30-year rate, we will still likely end the summer with fewer houses for sale than last year. This once again serves as evidence to show that despite these horrific conditions regarding affordability, we still simply don't have enough houses on the market to change prices. While demand figures such as these show a sharp drop-off following the recent run-up to rates, it's still a tough inventory situation. We need to see demand continuing to fall off, and specific demand measures such as price reductions need to continue this upward climb that we saw in 2022. Looking at the 2023 line, you can tell that the slope is starting to accelerate upwards, but it's still got some catching up to do if we want to see the same type of declines that we saw last year. Realistically speaking, it will be incredibly difficult for homes to undergo a dramatic dip in 2023. The hope for most buyers is that we see some sort of decline similar to 2022, but coming out of the winter months at the start of 2024, we see no New Year relief. The 22 market proved that while we can experience a severe winter slowdown induced by demand destruction due to sideline demand and interest rate sensitivity, prices can quickly jump back up following any sort of good news going into a new year. In order for sustained price declines to occur, there needs to be sustained downward pressure on prices in the form of interest rate increases and unemployment. Without this, the market is prone to massive increases following 3 years of exponential growth. Thank you guys for watching. As always, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed it, and let me know what you're seeing in your local market as we enter the peak season.